Canon PowerShot G7X Review. The rise of the high-end compact camera has been gathering pace, with oodles of models well worth a look in 2014. Despite already offering plenty of quality products, it's taken Canon a little longer to get into the groove and deliver a large sensor yet small size compact. Which is exactly where the PowerShot G7X fits into the equation. We might not lavish the G7X with praise for being an innovator, though, given that we've already seen the progression of Sony's RX100 line, now in its third generation, and alternatives such as the Fujifilm X series put in plenty of early work. But Canon's attempt at the 1-inch sensor compact was an inevitability. It's the model to push the big red reset button and make the G series all the more relevant in today's market. Pocketable design. If you've seen the latest Canon PowerShot G1X MKII or G16 models, then the G7X is a wonderful retreat from such bulky size. Although the Canon is slightly larger than the Sony Cybershot RX1003, its 103.0 x 60.4 x 40.4 mm footprint is a mere matter of millimeters more, making for a pocketable design. The lens ring always protrudes from the design, but it's only when switching the camera on that the optic extends from the body. There's a reassuring weight to the body. It's 304 grams, so roughly that of two smartphones, and visually, even though it's a straightforward black finish throughout, the metal buttons, dials and lens control ring add a certain class that is to be expected of a high-end compact. After all, this is £579 worth of kit. Unlike the Sony RX1003, the G7X lacks any kind of built-in viewfinder, or the provision to add one. A hotshoe wouldn't make any sense in this design, though, as the rear 3-inch LCD screen tilts all the way up by 180 degrees, so, if you should wish, you can even take a selfie. Yep, it's 2014, and everyone is obsessed with them, it seems. Still, the lack of such viewfinder provisions puts the Canon specification behind its peers, so if you're looking for something complete, then this Canon may not suit. Customizable controls. In terms of layout, the PowerShot G7X packs in plenty of physical controls, a 2-dial stack catering for shooting modes and dedicated exposure compensation on top, a rotational D-pad to the rear for cycling through settings, and a lens control ring to the front paired with a ring func button to the rear for full customization. It's worth highlighting just how much can be customized with the control ring, from default, i.e. aperture priority adjusts aperture, and so forth, through to ISO. Manual focus, white balance, step zoom, shadow/DR correction, or even aspect ratio selection. Perhaps best of all is the custom section, whereby aperture priority, AV, shutter priority, TV, and program auto, P, can each have their respective settings programmed in. The default action then falls to the rear D-pad rotation instead, so you don't lose functionality when using the camera irrelevant of primary setting choice, and these custom settings remain saved. Despite its sizable asking price, using the G7X sometimes has an essence of just another PowerShot about it, like a more pro-spec PowerShot S120 almost. And while "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" does spring to mind, we've been mulling over the idea of some more fulfilling options. Take the Panasonic Lumix LX100, for example, which adopts that company's higher spec autofocus and menu settings as drawn from its compact system camera line. Select the normal size focus area, dot it anywhere around the screen thanks to the responsive touch-sensitive panel and its usually quick-to-find focus, despite the slightest of delays from time to time. Swap for the small autofocus area and that delay seems slightly more extended, and while we're talking fractions of a second here, that can be enough to miss out on moving subjects or trickier scenes. We've been using the camera in Hong Kong where the Nikon D750 was our prime companion, but the Canon would come out for those shorter trips or late-night wanders when we didn't want a bulky DSLR with us. That's where the G7X's pocketable nature becomes its star quality, even if the autofocus speeds inevitably slow down in dim conditions. And moving subjects are a pain to conquer. But we just wanted that something more in performance terms, a little extra special something to see the Canon gallop ahead. As it stands, that's not all the way there, particularly for moving subjects, trying to shoot macaques, and we just gave up, reverting back to the DSLR, even if it ticks plenty of boxes and does things by its well-established own books. Additional quirks. There are all sorts of additional settings on board worth a look too. Unlike some of the far larger sensor Canon compacts, the original PowerShot G1X springs to mind. The G7X offers a pretty decent close-up focus mode. At 24mm it can snap 5 cms from the protruded lens, dropping to 40 cm when extended to the 100mm equivalent. Seemed pretty accurate to us in our tests, although you may have to engage the macro mode via a left click of the D-pad to get such close-up focus to work well. At the same time, we've been able to shoot at the lowest ISO 125 sensitivity on the streets at night by opting to shoot with the aperture wide open, so there's a balance to how the camera responds given its high-end specification. Verdict. As the high-end compact camera war hots up, Canon's first dip into the 1-inch sensor market is a solid effort. If it was 2013, then Canon would have struck gold with the PowerShot G7X. But what a difference a year makes, for the Sony Cybershot RX1003 is a step ahead in a number of departments. It's slightly smaller, has a built-in viewfinder and, for our money, delivers the better quality images throughout the full range. Of course, the Canon G7X isn't quite as pricey. Its tilt-angle screen is both touch-sensitive and selfie-capable, and its 24 to 100mm f/1.8-2.8 equivalent lens has the longer reach over the Sony 2. Choices. And what with the Panasonic Lumix LX100 and Fujifilm X30 just around the corner, there are many possible contenders up for consideration. But as much as we can split hairs over which camera does this or that better, what's clear with the Canon G7X is that it's a positive push forward for the G series, one that takes good quality images and comes bundled into a pocketable, well-built body with customizable controls. Even if there is no viewfinder, the G7X is one of the more notable G series Canon cameras for a number of years.